Good evening. It's good to be here. Good to see you. I feel like a session like this, I have to start with disclaimers. Now, I hate disclaimers. I hate when people say they have, all kinds of disclaimers. But I think I said this last time in our last session. I haven't read every book that there could be read. I haven't watched every video that could be watched. And some of you sitting here are anticipating I'm going to say a certain something. I might not say that. I might not have read that book. I might not have read that influencer's post. There is information out there more than we will ever read or study. I can't remember the number, but there's hours of video being uploaded to YouTube every second, and so no, you will never watch all of it. Anyways, when it comes to artificial intelligence, where do you start? It's this big thing that we've all heard of. Some of us think we know what it is. Some of us have no clue, and some of us wish we would never know. And so we have a spectrum of people here this evening that have a wide range of expectations and wishes. And I appreciate, Peter, what you were praying there, that Delmar would not lead us astray. Maybe not exactly those words, but the things that I say, they will hold different amounts of weight to different people of you here, but ultimately, let's just go into this here. Overview. Last time in April 22, I had a session on social media, which some of you were here, maybe many of you. Today, we want to look at computer technology and artificial intelligence. We'll keep it pretty simple. I really want to get a little bit into the background or the basics of what is technology, and because I think it's somewhat important that we have a little bit of an idea, because when it comes to artificial intelligence, we want to have an idea of what that is. So the goal is to spread awareness of the opportunities and risks associated with social media technology and artificial intelligence. This is the same post that I had last time, so this covers not just today, but last session and next session. To provide a clear, balanced information so you can apply wisdom and make informed decisions. And one more, this is kind of key as well, to replace fear and anxiety with clarity and understanding. If you just search artificial intelligence in YouTube, I don't know, because YouTube knows me and that it's biased and it shows me what I want to see. So it could be different from what you're seeing, but it is so easy to come across just headline after headline after headline that talks about the doom and the bad and the evil and everything else of AI. I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure you've heard it. My belief is that it's important that we have at least a little bit of an understanding of what it is before we decide to be afraid of something, okay? You can come to the table and you can already decide you hate that food. But if you've never tasted it, you've never seen it before, you have no idea what it is, your decision that you don't like that food is really based on nothing. Like, you have no reason to say you don't like that before you've tried it. Maybe a poor analogy, but AI can be a little bit like that. We can easily read headlines and become fearful. Another thing I want to say, last time the session went to 9 o'clock. I promised you I'd be done by 9 o'clock. I'm going to make that promise today again. I will end at 9 o'clock. I put my probability of being done earlier than last time actually fairly high. I think the session will not be as long as last time. My aim is 8:30. We'll see how well I do with that. This verse is key to me. Actually 3 verses. And 1 Thessalonians 5:21 verse 23. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good. Amen. Abstain from all appearance of evil, and the very God of peace sanctify you wholly. And I pray, God, your whole spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless unto the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. That is my goal. That is my desire when I think of these sessions. When it comes to artificial intelligence, that we would be blameless, that we would be whole, like as in complete, and that our spirit, soul, and body would be preserved blameless unto the coming of Jesus Christ. If anything I say here tonight goes the other direction, then that is wrong, and that is not what I want. As last time, I do like these verses out of Proverbs, talking of wisdom. I like the way the writer in Proverbs talks about wisdom as a person. Proverbs 1:20 says, "Wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates of the city. She uttereth her words, saying," and it goes on. Most of Proverbs 1 talks more on immorality and that sort of stuff. But if you jumped all the way down to chapter 8, back into wisdom again, it says, "Doth not wisdom cry, and understanding put forth her voice? She standeth in the top of high places, by the way, in the places of the paths. She crieth at the gates, at the entry of the city, at the coming in at the doors. Unto you, O man, I call, and my voice is to the sons of man. O ye simple, understand wisdom, and ye fools, be of an understanding heart. Hear, for I will speak of excellent things, and the opening of my lips shall be right things. For my mouth shall speak truth, and wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are in righteousness, and there is nothing froward or perverse in them. They are all plain to him that understandeth, and right to them that find knowledge." Verse 14, "Counsel is mine, and sound wisdom. I am understanding, I have strength. By me kings reign, and princes decree justice. By me princes rule, and nobles, even all the judges of the earth. I love them that love me, and those that seek me early shall find me." And it goes on many verses, and in verse 36, last verse of the chapter, he says, "But he that sinneth against me wrongeth his own soul. All that hate me love death." Quite the claim when you read Proverbs 8, and you think of the different things he says there about it's by me. Like wisdom is making a very audacious claim. It is by me. And then he has a whole list of things. It's by wisdom that a lot of these things happen. And so the question is, are you listening? Are you listening to wisdom? Are you listening when wisdom's standing there crying at you? I want to present a lot of stuff this evening. My desire is that you would take that information, take it home, and then you go talk with wisdom. Ask wisdom. What does wisdom say? What is technology? Obviously, you can read it. When I think of technology and the definition of technology, it's the practical application of scientific knowledge to solve problems, to achieve human purposes, or manipulate the human environment. Since the creation of mankind, there's been an effort by humanity to make life easier, to make life simpler. I mean, why do we drive a car? Why do we like to have electric light switches and light bulbs in our rooms, in our houses, in our buildings, in our churches? Because it's nice. We like it. We like microwaves because they can make food hot quickly. We like garage door openers because I would hate to get out of the car to open the garage door. You know, I just want to push a button. And we complain if the light switch is too far away. We need a light switch on this side of the room, and we need one on that side of the room, so it doesn't matter from which side I enter the room, I can just turn on the lights, you know, because I would really hate to walk all the way across the room just to turn the lights on. Kind of tells you how spoiled we really are, right? But it's human nature. We like to make things better. We like to make things easier for us. We like AC in our car. We like heater in our car. We want everything right now, right here. AI will give you a lot of that, just next level. So when people and companies work forward with artificial intelligence or computer technology or quantum computing or whatever, it's just a trend that we've seen for the last 6,000 years. There's nothing new under the sun, so to speak. Anyways, we want to talk about technology, and I will start very simple and very basic. What is a computer? Anybody ever thought of a computer like that? At the very base of a computer, it's an on-off switch. That's all it is. It's one of these guys. And then you have a three-way switch instead of a two-way switch. You know, you can add complexity. A computer is a lot of on and off switches. That was supposed to go on and off, and it doesn't seem to quite work. Anyways, you get the point. It's on and off. It goes in or it goes out, the electricity. Yeah, let's keep going. So, what is a computer? A computer has 3 basic parts. Yes, it's all on and off switches, and we'll get to that in a little bit. 3 basic parts. You have input sensors, that's hardware. You have processing, that's software, and you have output, that's also hardware. And so, my computer here, I brought it today, it has all kinds of inputs, and it has software that's processing stuff, and then it has output. We'll get more to that later. You can have, hardware can be all kinds of different things. You can have probes, you can have, yeah. I brought a computer. This is the Arduino. It's a very, very simple computer. And so it has a row of inputs and a row inputs and outputs. I can program them to be whatever. And then you have additional inputs and outputs. You can, combine them and multiply them, so to speak. But on this thing, you can go on Amazon. You can buy these things for $50 or whatever. But this is actually a computer. And you can plug USB into the computer. You can program it, write software for it, or get AI to write it for you. And then you have a bunch of outputs. This one only has a handful or a couple dozen of them. But that you can say, so what it does with this software, for example, I can go on Amazon, I can buy a light sensor, I can buy a temperature sensor, weights, scales, humidity sensors, all kinds of sensors. And I can plug it into there. And then you have the software that reads what those sensors are showing. So you have a thermometer, a temperature sensor, plugged into here, and you have it in this room, and it says, well, it's whatever, 20 degrees Celsius. In the software side, I can write in the code and say, well, if the temperature is 18 degrees or less, go to the output, start heating. Or if the temperature is 22 degrees, start cooling. So the software in the center is the one that handles the information that the sensors are giving, and you can make that code as complex as you want. On the output side of things, you can get things like motors and lights and speakers and displays and a million other things. So a computer is 3 basic parts: input sensors, processing, and output. A computer keyboard is an input sensor. This thing is an input sensor. The processing is the brain that decides what to do with the information it gets. And like I said, there is a lot of different sensors you could get. So here, for example, with my Arduino, that's actually a little different version of the Arduino, but you can have a thermometer, and you can plug it into here, and software is processing that information, say, well, when it gets 20 degrees, then I want the fan to start turning. So you can put a little motor in there, and this is stuff you can buy on Amazon. In fact, I actually have some of those here. Anybody interested in seeing some of those peripherals later, you're welcome to. Stuff like that. Or you can put a light sensor that says, well, if it gets this dark, I want the fan to turn, or I want the water to start spraying, or whatever. I mean, I don't know why the light would have to do with that, but we've all seen these, outside. Your light goes on when it gets this dark. That's a little computer. It has a sensor, has a processor, it has an output. That's the basics of computers. Now I want you to imagine something. Let's say you have a garden, and you have one of these little Arduinos. So you say, well, I'm going to put a rain sensor outside, and it will tell me when it rains. Well, it's plugged into here. I go in my little code, my computer, and I type in the code. I say, well, if, the if statement, if it hasn't rained for 2 weeks, open a solenoid, open a valve. Let's water the garden. Cool. Now you don't have to water the garden. Well, come January, it hasn't rained for 2 weeks. All of a sudden you have a problem. Now you find out you have a software glitch because you didn't want to freeze and bust all your pipes, right? And The software didn't know, like, hey, it was just following the rule. No rain for 2 weeks, I watered the garden. Don't matter, I mean, nobody said that there was in a certain temperature range or that it was only summer or only winter or whatever. So you have to call the people that built this, tell them that, hey, there's a glitch in your software, fix the bug. I don't want my pipes to freeze. This thing should only work in summer. Okay, so they go into the code, they fix the code, and they say if the date is May to August or October or whatever. If this is the date and if it hasn't rained, then we water the garden. So they fix the bug. Well, guess what? Now they come to the other side of the world where the summer and winter is switched, and now they're still complaining about a bug, right? Because now it's freezing in August instead of in January. So they're better off, they go and change the reading to a temperature range rather than a date. Anyway, you get the point. Software it takes the hardware information, the sensors, it processes it, you put rules to it, you write the code, you make things, follow a protocol. Computers just do what they're told to do. That's all. That's all they do. Let's see, what else have we got here? So you have all kinds of, now this is looking a little bit more like computers already. You can have input sensors. They could be cameras, they can be keyboards, they can be mouse, trackballs, smoke detectors, like that's all input sensors. They go to processing, they have code that runs, that looks at the information coming in, and it follows certain criteria, certain rules, and then it puts out. So yeah, you could have it go to a speaker, you could have it go to a water sprayer thing, and so on. So that's basics for computers. Input sensors can be anything from biometric, could be fingerprint sensors, could be proximity sensors. Your phone has a proximity sensor, you lift it up, it will sense if you're something close. NFC, GPS, pressure, those things are probably all in your phone. Touch screen. Fridges have a bunch of sensors, phones have a bunch of sensors, cars have a bunch of sensors, ships, robots, airplanes, rockets, watches, coffee makers, home automation, like there's sensors everywhere. They're all mini little computers. If this, then do this, that's a computer. So remember that light switch thing with the on and off? Everything has on and off in a computer. And this is kind of a real basic version of a computer. This is, I think, actually the motherboard that I have in this computer, if I remember right. Nope, I think that looks a little different. But if you look at this side here, in modern computers nowadays, those ports are all, I think pretty much all of them are inputs and outputs. USB, universal serial bus, it's universal. You can plug something in, it can be going in, it can be going out. You can put a microphone on there, you can put a speaker on there, all in the same port. But they're inputs and outputs, that's what it is. And then you have your CPU, the processing unit that processes all that information. Your software that handles information and it follows the rules. Now, speaking of on and off switches, once you understand a little bit how a computer works, and I'm not going to try to make you understand all this stuff, but it is absolutely fascinating to me how a computer even works. Like as complex or as, it's very simple on one level, but you know the on and off switch that I had there? A regular computer like this has, anybody want to guess how many on and off switches there are in a computer? Million? Good guess. Anybody else? Come on, somebody. We need more guesses.
My computer has one.
Yeah. There you go. At least one. That qualifies as a computer. I did some research because I mean, I've known this technology exists a long time, but I was like, I want to know how many actual switches are, like, they aren't physical switches, okay? They aren't that big. The graphics card on this computer that I have here has 45,900,000,000 transistors. That's just the main board on that graphics card. Then it has a RAM built in, and then it has, like, there's way more. Any normal computer will have 100 billion. Yeah, that should blow your brain. I was like, seriously? Like, this little chip the size of my fingernail, a little bit like a postage stamp. Anybody still know what that is? And they put, and then it's a couple layers thick. Couple layers thick, you got that? Just a couple. It's fascinating how that's made, okay? They use laser light beams, specially designed laser beams to melt traces into there. That's how they can make them so incredibly tiny. Anyways, it's amazing how that works. Let's go on. Oh yeah, that's our on and off switch right there. So, when you and I work with a computer, we look at that, we have a keyboard, and we can type this that says, this is a sample sentence. That's how we read it. A computer, under the hood, for every character, it has a number. So all of those things, they have, even a space has a number. And in our English language computers, this T, capital T, is an 84, and H is an 104, and space is 32. They have a number. Let's just put them all there. And after I made this, I realized that some of my lines are crooked, and it bothers me. So hopefully you don't notice that. I should have. So there's actually another layer. That's where our on and off comes from. So underneath every number is a binary number, they call it. And you see it's only 0 and 1. Why? Because it's only on and off. That's what it is. It all boils down to on and off. That's at the very base layer of a computer, is on and off. So a capital T, an 84 goes to that number. You ever seen the blue screen of death when your computer crashes and it's a whole bunch of zeros and ones and X and zeros and ones and X? Yeah, at least one of you has. Thanks, Chris. Those numbers actually mean something. You could take that, put it into Google and search for it, and it will tell you what it means, because it's a language a computer understands. All right. Keep this thought for a second. Oh, by the way, some of you remember back in the day, in, I don't know, 2002 and 3 and 5 maybe, when we had these little flip phones, predictive texting? Anybody remember that? Yeah, a couple of you? Yeah, you know what the computer does? That's a computer too, by the way, flip phone. A computer doesn't care about this. This is only put there for us humans that need text to read. A computer cares about this. And again, it depends on what language it is, but for us English people, it would be like this mostly. This is at the very bottom of it, but then it's built on this language. A computer only cares about the numbers. 84, 104, 105, 115. Like, it can read that pretty fast. Here's another thing it knows. Those predictive texting machines, flip phones, back in the day, you know, if you would go along here and all of a sudden this 109 was missing, the computer would recognize that, you know what, in this pattern, there would usually be a 109 in here. So it's just going to fill it in for you. That's called autocorrect. And so on it goes. Pretty cool stuff. We'll get to that later. So, artificial intelligence. So what is artificial intelligence? It is a simulation of intelligence, of human intelligence in machines programmed to think and learn like humans. AI systems are capable of performing tasks such as recognizing patterns, understanding language, and solving complex problems. I want to make one thing very clear, what AI is not. I've heard people say that AI is evil, that AI is has a spirit or is a ghost. It is not. And I will attempt to explain that to you tonight, why that is not true. AI does not have a spirit. AI does not have a ghost. AI is not evil. Clear? AI is good at pattern recognition. It is machine learning. We'll look at some of these a little bit more. Problem solving. In this list of 3 functions of a computer, somebody guess where does AI fit? Which one of these 3 is AI going to? Processing. Whoever said that? Yes, that is correct. AI goes right there in processing. So you still have a computer. You have your input sensors, you have your processing, you have your output. You could put AI in the middle with the processing. You still have your inputs. Could be the same inputs. Now AI, artificial intelligence, just is a different way of processing that information. Large language models. Who's ever heard of LLMs? Have you heard of LLM, large language model? Sure, you've heard of it. Some of you have. What is that? LLM, large language model, is a software that studies how closely words appear next to each other in books, articles, speeches, and websites. You would think that AI is complicated. I mean, the way it's being talked about, what it can do, it's very complicated, right? No, it's not. You know what AI does? Pattern recognition, that's it. It recognizes how closely together words appear in writings. Very simple. More about that. More about that. Training a model is expensive, takes lots of energy, electricity, and takes time. Excuse me as I just scan my notes here. What do I all want to say? Last week, Thursday, I was in Minneapolis, spent the day with a bunch of software engineers and AI people. I loved it. I like technology. I just enjoyed my day. And these guys, that's all they do all day long. They write code, they make AI, they use AI, all these things. And one of the things they said too was when they're training a model, it takes enormous amounts of energy and processing power. It's very expensive to train a model. So what is training a model? Oh, here's one more I was going to have. Goal is to continuously predict the next word in a sentence. Yes, I kind of alluded to that. That's really all AI does. The large language model takes a whole bunch of data, figures out what's normal, what words appear next to each other, and it predicts what's the next word. And so this is how models get trained. You take a whole bunch of information, you throw it into the training model, and the software analyzes that data. And that takes enormous amounts of compute power because they throw a massive amounts of data at it. Whole encyclopedia sets, books, news sites, or Facebook, Fox News, all kinds of stuff. And they train on it. And then when you go into AI and you chat in there and you ask, well, what's a good restaurant in Arbrig, right? And so it thinks for a second and then it looks at predictive texting, and I call it predictive texting. It looks at what words come next to it, like what makes sense in all the data that it's been trained on. So if it's been trained on people living in Arbrig or whether it's been trained on people living in BC, that output might look different. And so that's how things, depending what model we use, that can make a difference. So if you can imagine, if we like to be in politics, since we all like politics, no, not all of us, but some of us do. If you take all the training that you put into the model from Rebel News, and then you have another model that takes all the training from CBC News, and then you ask those two AI models the same question that says, is our Prime Minister good? Well, guess what? In one language, in one training model, you would have tons of hits that would say yes, and in the other one, you can imagine, lots of them would say no, based on the training that it got, right? It is actually not much different than the way you train your children. If your children are often told one thing, they will learn that. If AI gets all its information from a biased source, it will have biased answers. Now, there's layers of control that these companies can put to that AI model after it's got the training, where it's reinforcement training, they call it, where you now ask it a bunch of questions and then you say, no, that's wrong, no, that's right. And that way you manipulate the answers of the AI and it will learn that way, reinforcement learning, whereas you ask the question, well, is 2 + 2 4? And it says no, or it says yes, and you can tell whether it's right or wrong. One interesting note, when you think about this, AI is not very good at solid facts. 2 times 2 is 4. A calculator gets it right every time. AI might not. Why? Because AI doesn't know facts. AI only looks at common words next to each other. It will look at the model that's been trained on, and it will look at, okay, so the question is, what's 2 plus 2? And it will look at the model, and if those words appear next to each other, and then the answer next to those words is 6, it will just say 6. Because AI is dumb. AI knows nothing. All it knows, all it can do is look in its training data and look, well, what words come next to each other? That's all it does. It has no clue what's right or wrong. 0. It just looks at, I call it the probability of proximity. What's the probability that this word comes in proximity to this word? That's all it does. Very simple. This becomes incredibly important then how that model is trained. Obviously, I asked a question one time, what's I can't remember the size now, but in mild steel, I think a 4x8 sheet of 14 gauge or something like that, I just asked AI, what's the weight of it? And I knew the formula, I knew what that math out to be. And so AI gave me this nice answer where it told me, well, you take this formula, you multiply it by this, by this, by that, and so on, you divide, and all this fancy algebra that I can hardly understand. And at the very end, it said you multiply this by this by this, you get the answer. And it got everything right except the actual answer was wrong. Go figure. All the formula was right, but the actual math, the easiest of it all, you would think, is what it got wrong. Now, AI is always getting better. They got retrained. This is already a couple years ago that I did that. I don't know. Today it might be right. Here's another interesting thing. AI is still moldable. Byron, I don't know if he's here, but he sent this to me, and I went and tried it. What's 140 days from today? And I don't know, October 7th. I don't know what it is. And AI gave you the answer, and it was probably right. And then you wrote an AI and say, well, no, you're wrong. It's actually October 24. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. It's October 24. And then you say, no, actually, it was October 20. It's like, oh, yeah, you're right. It's October 20. Like, why would it do that? If it's in a training data that's just looked for predictive or the probability of proximity, if it's been trained on Canadians that are very apologetic, that always say sorry, and then so it learns that when you're corrected, then it says sorry. Oh yeah, you're right. I don't know. It's one of those things that's something hard to figure out. But one thing to know, AI gets trained, but companies still they can put certain weight to certain things. Like I call it weight, where you have these answers, but they can be programmed to put more emphasis on this or ignore this more. There's still manipulation in the training data. You understand what I'm saying? All right, let's keep going. I'll just jump through this. I don't think we need to look at all this. Data centers basically it takes incredibly much power and electricity to run. It's on data centers, and you have chips. NVIDIA runs most of the AI chips in the world today. Intel does a little bit. Qualcomm does a little bit. Google has their own. That's Qualcomm. And OpenAI and Anthropic and Meta have their AIs running on NVIDIA chips. NVIDIA is, by the way, getting pretty wealthy with all this AI stuff. And then on top of that, we have company A, B, C. Like we have all the different companies that run these models, or one of them or the other one. And then up there is all of us humans that like to use the stuff. So it's just a little bit breakdown of how it stacks. By the time it gets to us, it can have been manipulated several times, is what I'm saying. And then, I don't know, was it mid-April here, a couple weeks ago, Google dropped Gemma 4. Open source, for free. And they did something that was big news. They basically took out the data center and made it small enough that it can run on your computer. So some people got pretty excited about that. And you can run it offline. You can have to download like 26 gigabytes or whatever it is, or more, depending on what level you get. You can run it on your own computer. Yeah, I wasn't going to spend much time on that one. Anyways, still remember this? This is a sample sentence. That's how the computer used to work. With AI, it looks, I use a different sentence now. It's a little different. Can you finish this? Somebody tell me. Sentence. Why do you think it's sentence? Who said that? You? You just know that. How would a computer know that? Yeah, it just makes sense. I agree. In AI, they've done something a little different. They don't just go a number for a character. Now they put a number to a word. Much more efficient that way. So instead of predicting what's the next character, they are now predicting what's the next, still just the next number. It's no different. But instead of it being characters up here, it has words up there. So it's 119, 283, 87, 301. And by the way, those numbers now are just sample. I mean, I don't know what, depending on what model, they have different numbers, but same principle. And so, why not cake? Cake has the number 78 attached to it. So the AI looks at these numbers and looking at its training model, it looks, well, it gives, it does it in 2 seconds or 10 seconds, depending on what level of thinking mode you have it turned on. It's like, it quickly looks through its data and says, okay, can you finish this? And it's like, okay, where in my data do I have words that come next to each other like that? What's the probability, well, cake, or again, the words are just there for us humans. The computer looks at numbers. So it looks at 301, what's the chance it's 78? Well, 2% of the time in its small, it's that. Sentence, 83% of the time it has 115 as the next word. And 12% of the time it has 61 as the next word. And 5% of the time it has number 86 as the next word. And so it just does it. It looks at the probability of proximity. What's the chance that this word is next to that word? And so it looks at this, looks at these numbers, looks at this, and then it figures out the math. It chooses sentence or 115 because that number is much higher. So it puts that word there. And then once it has that word there, then it does this whole thing over again to look at the next word. And then figures out what that word is, and then does the whole thing over again, and on it goes.
So why does that equal more than 100%?
That has to do with how that AI training works. I don't know that I can explain that better than that. Yeah. Ask AI. So that's how that works. Then you have something like that's called hallucinations, or there's other words for it. Sometimes you have a bunch of numbers in a row and they don't make any sense to AI. With the model it's been trained on, it says, well, there's no words that come next to this in any probability. And AI is trained to help you. That's the whole idea. It's supposed to help you. So it's not like your test where you have pick A, B, or C, and when you don't know, you just skip that answer and go to the next one. AI will just pick one. It will never skip a letter. It will just pick one. So when it doesn't know, like this one would be pretty simple, obviously, but you can have certain things, depending on what it's trained on, there's no 50% or 80% probability that that's the next word that you want. And so it will just randomly pick a word. It'll just put something there. Well, it puts, I don't know, shoe in there. Can you finish this shoe? Well, that doesn't make any sense. But now that word will influence the next word. So it has, can you finish this shoe? It looks at that, and that doesn't make any sense. But that's the word now. It forgets that. It just goes to the next one. So what's the probability that when you say, can you finish this shoe, and it comes to the next one, it can go completely off topic, and it will give you the answer just completely confidently, like here's the answer, this is what you want. AI is completely dumb. It knows nothing. And so it just, it thinks for 2 seconds, and some of this comes into your different models, like ChatGPT does this, Grok does this, Gemini has this, Anthropic. I think the AI, I'm guessing the AIs all have it, but they have different levels of thinking. You can say, well, do you want it to think longer or shorter? The longer you think, the better of an answer it will give you, because it will look through more data and has more probability that it will find the answer that you are thinking of and not hallucinate as much. But AI does never say, I don't know. Now, if you ask it the wrong question, it will say, well, I cannot tell you that. There's guardrails. Certain companies put certain guardrails in it to try to control what it does. So that's why when you're using, this is Grok, you're typing in there, why is AI so complicated? You'll see how quickly it's going through and adding words. But every word it puts down is affected by the previous word. And it can do that incredibly fast. It just throws it in there like that. And then that video will repeat until I hit the next button. And by the way, it's even predicting, as I start typing my question, it's already trying to figure out what you're going to write. And so, if you notice what it's read there, that's not what I had typed in previously. So then you get to agentic AI. How many of you have heard of agentic AI? All of one of you? Oh boy. I thought a lot of you would have at least heard of that before. Agentic AI is more like a personal agent. It can execute actions and actually do things. Anybody wonder how that works? Anybody still remember this? Or this? You already guessed where the next one's going, right? Oh, it has all these in here. Agentic AI takes it to a whole new level. Now it's no more just characters and not just words. It takes whole instruction sets or whole actions and puts numbers to that. So agentic AI, not only does it, can it give you a lot of information, like the previous stuff we talked about, the little sample that you saw there, that's the, I don't know what you would call it, the cheap AI, the free AI, the stuff that you can use almost anywhere. And you can ask questions and it will give you answers. Agentic AI takes that and then adds the whole layer of actions to it. So not only can it find information for you, it can now start doing things for you. And so when you have, let's just say you want to build a website. So you type in there and you say, I want to build a website. I want to build a website, I don't know, I'm a mechanic, I like cars, make me a website to advertise my services. Okay, AI goes and it, looks at its training. What's the probability when somebody wants to build a website? He has this, he has this. It first looks at the research or the information part that we looked at earlier. Once it has that figured out, then it goes to the actions part, and then it looks at what's the probability, the proximity of these. Again, it's just numbers, but then they have actions tied to that, and so it looks at that predictive process and goes through the whole step. It breaks it up into steps. It says, well, clarify, understand the goal. That's the first thing it has to do. And then it has to research what tools to use. Well, I got to be coding, or I got to be researching, or I got to be generating images, or whatever. What tools do I use? Then it builds a structure, and then it writes the actual code for the website, and then it tests it. It tests the website to see if it's working, see if the links are good, see if the page loads, all that good stuff, fixes any issues, and then it deploys it and tells you it's done. I've made a handful of websites testing this, and it usually makes a website in about 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, depending how complex, depending on what I'll tell it I want in there. We used to pay $10,000 for somebody to make a nice website for you, or $2,000 depending on where you go, who you hire, and what kind of complexity. Now I can go to AI. It's called vibe coding. You know what my vibe is today? My vibe today is I want a music website. I vibe it into there, and it just throws out the code. That's now an actual term. It's called vibe coding. And so you just tell it what you're thinking. It can make something for you. Or you want a little app on your phone. You just go to AI and say, you know what? I want this app. I want to track mileage. Whenever I drive, I want to hit, track my mileage on my phone. Make me a little app that does it. All right. 5 minutes later or whatever, you have an app. You push it to your phone. Now you have an app on your phone that you can track mileage or track finances or whatever. Like that's how that works. That's what you can do. Generally, when I've tried this, and if we have time, we'll try it later a little bit, it doesn't come out perfect the first time. A lot of it has to do with how detailed you get because I like to be lazy. Just type in, I want a website. Well, that's incredibly loose-ended, a website, right? So the more information you give it, the more detailed you are. Say, well, I want multiple pages, I want a contact me page, I want a products page, or I want a whatever. These are the services. I do oil change and I change tires. That's all I do, right? So put that on there. Or you ladies, you like cooking or selling, I don't know, baked goods, little website. I'm not asking you to do it. I'm just saying that's the type of stuff you can do. So back to this again. What is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is the simulation of human intelligence. And this is I've pondered this a lot, because when you don't know how it works, it actually literally looks like this thing is smart, because you can ask it any question, it will give you an answer. It can start doing things for you. It can make you a database. It can build you a website. It can, this thing is smart. No, it's not. They've just figured out how to simulate, how to artificially intelligence. That's why it's called AI. It's why it's called artificial intelligence. It actually knows nothing. It has no soul. It has no feelings. It has no brain. It's just code that follows rules. And the interesting thing is, those rules are such that inputting information, like part of the rules is to go look for information, and when that information comes in, it adapts its rules as new information comes in, and that makes it seem smart. It appears intelligent. That's the whole thing with artificial intelligence. You might have heard the term AGI, artificial general intelligence. Artificial general intelligence, or AGI, is a hypothetical type of artificial intelligence that matches or surpasses human capabilities across virtually all cognitive tasks. So you have artificial general intelligence. It's a big topic these days in the AI world. It basically means they have artificial intelligence that can now match human smartness on generally everything. 2 years ago, everybody knew exactly what that meant. They knew where that bar was. They knew that artificial AGI, that's this. Today, they don't know anymore. You know why? Because AI is right up here. Now they're splitting hairs over, okay, are we already there? Or is AI already there? Or what exactly does it mean? Does it include this? Does it include that? Artificial intelligence, so close to that, what they said 2 years ago is, oh, everybody knew exactly where it was. Now it's all up, they don't know. Like, maybe we're past it, maybe we're almost there. They're splitting hairs over that now, trying to figure out whether AI is already there, and some are still saying, oh, it's still 10 years away, and stuff like that. Then you have artificial superintelligence. And this is where this artificial intelligence becomes so smart, it says AI that can outperform the best human abilities across every domain by a wide margin. That's what's called artificial superintelligence. And that's where people get excited when we talk about that. What will that do to humans? What will that do to this planet once you have a computer system that can give you answers better than any human can in every topic? In engineering, in medical field, in science, in web development, in every topic you throw at it, it will be vastly better than a human. That's exciting stuff in some ways. AIs are getting so good now at passing tests that now we need new tests, not to measure competence, but to highlight areas where humans and AIs are still different, and to find where we as humans still have an advantage. That's where we're at right now. AIs are getting so good they can pass pretty much every test that we know as humans. When we want to test somebody, how good are you at, your bar exam or your whatever different diplomas you can get or degrees you can get. AI can pass all those now, basically. And so now they have to develop new tests, because trying to make it harder, more difficult, and trying to figure out where do humans still actually have an advantage when it comes to knowledge. That's how good AI has gotten by now. Transforming industries with AI. There is a massive amount of stuff going on in all these industries and many more. I just threw 4 at the screen. Medical stuff is a big one. They now say artificial intelligence is better at diagnosing patients than expert doctors are. And while some of you think that's crazy and that's scary and that's just wrong, I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to think, but for those people that are having an odd diagnosis or something that's strange, that isn't obvious to doctors, this becomes a very big help. Because AI can give you an answer that doctors can't. And finance, fraud detection, algorithmic trading, credit scoring, and so on. Transportation, self-driving cars, route planning, traffic management, and in retail you can have chatbots and tailored shopping and supply chain efficiencies, all kinds of stuff. And this is just a splattering of what it could be. Artificial intelligence will affect everything. It will go into every industry, anything that requires knowledge. And one of the big ones is coding. I don't specifically have it on here, but like I said last week Thursday when I was in Minneapolis, that company that does software, that writes software, makes software, that's what they do. They use AI in and out, everything. And OpenAI, for what it's worth, a couple of months ago when they released a new model, they announced, they said that 50% of their code was written by their own AI. And so in this group right here today, I don't think we have many software engineers that write code, but there are a lot of people that do. And so I was talking to these guys last week and I was like, so how do you feel about this? Like, you're making AI, you're making the software that uses AI and it's starting to do this work for you. When you really sit down and they're honest with you, then some of them are a little bit concerned. They don't know. Like, yeah, they see this. They're the ones making this. But where does that put them? Because right now, what happens a lot is amateurs like me can write software, but it's not necessarily reliable, secure, or stable. And so it goes to a senior engineer that looks at it and verifies whether it's good. So what used to be an engineer that would write a lot of software, write a lot of code, he ends up now being just the guardian of, or the inspector of the amateur guys' code. Because he doesn't have time to write code anymore. Now all he can do is inspect what AI did. It gets frustrating for those people sometimes, but that's a little bit where those guys are at right now. Some of you don't like this. I'm not going to tell you to like this. But AI will be everywhere. I believe that outside of an act of God, AI is going to basically take over the world not take over the world. It will be in everything we do, in all technology. I mean, you can't go on the internet now without having, you search, Google search, it already gives you AI results. Your weather forecasts, if they aren't already AI, they will be. A lot of stuff is just going all into artificial intelligence. Why is the adoption rate so incredibly fast and so incredibly pervasive and just taking over everything? I recognize that we here in the north are a little bit outside of where most humanity lives on the globe, if you look at the globe. And so cities like Minneapolis and Chicago and New York and Toronto, they will probably face some of this stuff sooner than we will. But a lot of us already use AI. A lot of us have seen what AI can do. In my work, I use AI every day. It gives you that added or the extra abilities to do things that you otherwise just simply can't. A lot of my AI stuff is just short little coding. Maybe I need to handle files on the server or to rename stuff or to move stuff. I can put code in there that says, well, if this, then that, then that. And so AI quickly writes me a little PowerShell code and I run the PowerShell code and it moves a bunch of files, renames a bunch of files, or does that type of stuff. It's simple little stuff, nothing complicated. But it helps me do it 5 times faster. AI in cars, AI-powered cars, self-driving cars. You can go to Houston, you can go to Las Vegas. There's numerous cities in the US that they already have these cars driving without human intervention. Some people freak out with that. They think it's scary, they think it's dangerous. They would never trust it. That's your choice. Statistically speaking, AI-driven cars are about 10 times less likely to have an accident than human-driven cars. And so you can reject it, but the next generation most likely won't. Your children are probably going to have it because it's safer. It's cheaper. And so that's just the way it's going to go. Money and safety speaks in this world. We can hate it all we want to, but there's that side of it. When you think of work, having AI write code or having AI get involved with all kinds of working stuff, it's not hard to figure out why that becomes attractive, because AI isn't emotional. It has no feelings. It never gets tired. It doesn't go on vacation. It doesn't need bathroom breaks. It doesn't need to eat. It's just there. Doesn't complain. There's a lot of reason why AI becomes very attractive. Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT, a lot of people agree with the statement. He says that AI will take over the CEO's job. And he said that he might as well be the first company to have it, because he figures AI is a much better CEO than he is. So it's coming for most industries out there, and most categories of jobs and so on. And again, why is AI so good at it? Because it is not human. It is dumb. It knows nothing. It's all just mathematical equations. No feelings, no brains, no spirit, no discernment, just what the training data has, right? So that's obviously a good and a bad. And today, in case you hadn't figured out yet, I should have said this right in the beginning, my apologies. Today I'm focusing more on the positive side of AI. I'm not going to go into all the doomsday stuff, not going to go into all the stuff that's bad, negative, what you need to watch out for. This is a two-part session, two-part series. And if you leave today and don't hear the next session, you're going to be a little bit one-sided. It's not going to be a fair balance, okay? I just want to make that clear. And so hopefully you can hear or listen to the next session as well. Okay, so then we get to robotics. So all the stuff that we said about AI, the way it can research stuff based on its training data, the way agentic AI can perform actions in software and so on, they're going to put that into robots. Now all of a sudden you have AI that can do physical stuff. Now it's no more just writing codes. It's no more just pulling up information for you and finding a good restaurant or saying it's not a good restaurant or whatever. Now you have chunks of steel and plastic walking around that can physically do things based on its training data. Probability of proximity. It goes through those doors, and it again, input sensors, has cameras that feed information. It sees, well, I see a door. It recognizes it as a door based on its training data. What do people usually do with a door? Well, they usually open the door. And so that type of stuff. It is completely dumb. It knows absolutely nothing. But the computer power has come to the point where it can input data so fast, analyze it, and interpret it, that it starts to feel like a human. Now, here's the funny thing. Why does AI start to feel like a human? Anybody care to guess?
Because humans made it.
Yeah. Humans made it. And with that, where does all the data come from? It's all made by humans. It's all text that's written by somebody. Well, it was. Now AI is writing it. But AI is made in the image of man, and man is made in the image of God. You can think about that for a while and what that might mean. We are created in God's image. AI is not created in God's image. AI is created in our image, in man's image. Mankind, by nature, by God's design, has a will to live. AI can act very human sometimes. And it can act with a will to live. And we'll get into that next session. But all of the training data from an AI is from humans, or has been. And some of that might be changing. If AI starts writing all kinds of stuff and then that gets ingested into its training model, that can become some kind of a feedback loop that could be very interesting. But you understand how AI works. Like, it's training data, whatever information it's been fed on, it's just looking at the next word, the next number, What's the probability that the next number is going to be 55 or 65 or whatever? And then I have marveled when I thought about this and I looked at some of this stuff and I pondered it. It's like, that's very interesting. They've made a device, a machine, that actually mimics humans pretty good. So if you don't like what AI is doing or what it's saying, that says something about the creator. That says something about us. Now, we obviously understand that we might be followers of Christ, but the larger percent of the world is not, and therefore that the actions of AI can be different than what we would have. If it was trained on just this group of people, just on IMF people, for example, obviously the AI would look different and would act and speak differently than if it's trained on just general information across the internet. So there's all that stuff too. Now, by the way, speaking of which, there are companies that do that. They would take an AI model and then they would train it on the Bible. And so now you have, now you have an artificial intelligence that knows the Bible and it answers according to the Bible. And so you can go online now and you can go to, and I forget the website offhand, but you can go to a website where you can talk to Jesus. You can go in there and you can ask questions. And it's set up, programmed in a way that it will answer as if it's Jesus. I don't know what you think about that. I'm not sure what I should think about that either. But there's some things that I do know. God is very clear, very jealous God. We shall have no other gods before him than him alone, than Christ, than God. If we use AI as a god, that's wrong. If we're trying to replace God, in fact, there's a book called, I think it's called We Are as Gods. It talks about, I think I haven't read the book, but I've heard a speaker the author talk about it. Basically, his point is, 100 years ago, if people would look at what we do today with technology, they would think we were gods. Like, if you think of a person 100 years ago to what we do today, what we're able to do with technology, they would think we're like gods now. That's kind of the background to that book, or the title of the book. But it's very important to me, and I think it should be to us as Christians, that we never replace God with a machine. Because as those machines become smarter than us, and in many ways they are, we need to be careful that our source of life and our source of devotion is to and from God. And if we look at this technology, and as powerful as it is, I wonder how God looks at it. I wonder what God thinks. There's this verse, I wish I remembered where it was. I was going to put it in here and then I forgot about it. But there's a verse that says, all things were made for him and for his glory. I think it's like in the Corinthians somewhere. Somebody might know where it is offhand. And I thought about that. So AI is made for God's honor and glory. How do we use it for that? Artificial intelligence now, you can go and take a picture of yourself and then write what it's supposed to say and make that into a video, and I could show you all kinds of videos that I've made like that just to test it. You can do voice cloning, you can make any person say anything basically. Just all kinds of fun toys, right? But what if we use that to spread the gospel in Arabic? What if we took our messages and used AI to translate them into Spanish, into Arabic and French and whatever? Like, there's over 100 languages you can do that with an AI now. I think, like, I wonder how God looks at it. Like, is that why he allowed humans to discover artificial intelligence? What was his plan? Like, God wants the world to know him. So what's our responsibility when we have a tool like this? I don't have all these answers. I'm with you when it comes to questions. But one thing is obviously clear, like, God is God and him alone. And we need to have a heart and a passion after Christ, not after technology, not after God, not to become like gods. Adam and Eve in a garden, what made them fall? They wanted to be like God. If we're taking AI because we want to be like God, that's sin. But if we have a technology, a tool that can help us spread the gospel, go for it. Okay, this is my last slide, and I wanted to see if I can do a live demonstration. This is where it gets sketchy. It's where I lose sleep at night type of thing. I didn't have as much time to get this ready as I wanted to, but let's give it a shot. Just bear with me as I pull this stuff up. So for example, I'm going to, so this is Codex. I don't know if you can read that. Probably can. So let's just say, I'm going to make a new project, start from scratch. And so I have this code that text. I'll paste in there instead of typing it here in front of you, and you see me being nervous and misspell things. Let's just say I want to make a website, web page for mechanics. So what I wrote in there is you take on the role of a web developer or a designer. I need a website. I'm a mechanic for cars. I like to fix cars. I like to tinker with cars. Nothing makes me happier than when I'm elbow deep into grease and so on, whatever. I just wrote something in there. So put it together. I've been doing that since 14. I've attached an image of myself. Actually, I don't think I have an image in there, so I might have to take that out. And so I just have random stuff. Make up a logo since I don't have one. Ask me any clarifying questions if something isn't clear. So there are certain things I write in here, and this is not necessarily a training on how to write prompts. But when you think of the probability of proximity to words, that's all that AI knows, it becomes actually very important what you ask or how you ask, the words you use to ask questions. Now, if I really wanted to do, one reason why I did this very simple prompt that isn't a professional prompt is because I wanted to demonstrate how good it is when it's worst case scenario, so to speak. If I really wanted to make a good website and make good use of my AI, I would first take this prompt into AI and say, rewrite this prompt to be for an AI to develop a website. So first use AI to write the prompt for me to make it a much more detailed prompt, and then you can read over and see, oh, actually it assumes certain things. Because when I write this, there's a lot of stuff left for assumptions here. I have not mentioned anything about color. I haven't mentioned anything about what kind of graphs or graphics. I haven't, like, there's a ton of stuff in a website that nothing's even, like, this is very, very simple. So AI is going to assume a whole lot of stuff. And so if I'm picky, if I want to be particular, the more I detail what I want, the better AI is at responding to that, because now it has all the right words, proximity to each other, and kind of get it that way. I should probably hit enter here so it can start thinking, well, I got, on this, but this is Codex, by the way. This is ChatGPT's latest model. Yeah, I'm running on 5.5. Came out, 2 weeks ago? And so let's just run it, see what it does. And see if it will ask me any questions, because I have in there ask me any clarifying questions if something isn't clear. And I like to kind of do that. So you will see here, it is thinking, and then it's running certain things. It says, well, this folder is empty, so I'll build a clean new site. Yeah, well, I had a folder that has nothing in it. And so it's looking at different folders. It's looking at, it's thinking. Some call it thinking, and sometimes it depends what AI user calls it cooking, or it's called it whatever. They have all kinds of words they put there for the time it's trying to generate something or figure something out. So if you picture now the screen I had earlier with the different steps, it's going through the agentic process. This is, by the way, this is agentic AI. This is AI that works for you, like it can actually do things. It's not just pulling up information and telling you stuff. If it's going to work, it's going to make a website for us. And this sometimes takes a couple of minutes. So it's got a visual. And it keeps running. And then it thinks some more. So that says I'm about to create the site now, so it's gone through some of those steps already. And this, by the way, there was nothing there. Like, it was a completely empty folder. I just opened Codex, as this app is called, which, by the way, this is ChatGPT, the Codex version of it. And we'll see if it's any good. Sometimes it comes back, surprises me how good it is, and sometimes it's just complete failure, complete flop. So it doesn't always do the same thing. Anybody have any questions while we're watching that thing think?
Somebody must have put this in there, right? Like, if AI does, it only does things what you tell it to do, right? But somebody must have done this.
Well, that's the training. Like, it's been trained on, I don't know where OpenAI trains all their models, like where they get their information. But generally, most of the companies claim they will put, like, they ingest almost the entire internet. Well, not the entire internet, but a lot of books and data. And so one thing that I did not do, my prompt is already gone up above this text, but when you write in there, act as a web developer, act as a senior web developer, that clause at the beginning helps it to act as a web developer. If I just wrote in there, make a website, then it doesn't filter out to web development content. If I say act as a web developer, that puts its training, it filters the training data down to web development stuff, and it'll give you a much better answer, a much better result. Some people have asked the questions, what is the best AI to use? Gemini, which is Google's product, is basically the best when it comes to generating images or video. Like, Google's really good at working with pixels, anything with pixels. Not pixels as in the Pixel phone, but I'm talking pixels as in image stuff. Grok, which is from XAI, which is Elon Musk's product, Elon Musk is currently pretty set on being the, what's the right word? Ultimate truth. He wants AI to just tell you the truth with no guardrails, like asking anything you want to, it will just tell you the truth type of thing. And so it's very different than most of the other companies that have much more control to their AI, like only this, not that, so on. And Elon Musk is like, nah, throw all that out the door, just give you the raw power, but it's got to stick to the truth type of thing. So it has its cons and pros on that side. What other ones do we have? Anthropic is especially good at coding. I should probably be using Claude here. Claude is Anthropic's system. Let's see, where are we at with this guy? So there's my website. Engines rebuilt by hands that know every bolt. There you go. So you have a phone number, you can view services. Let's see if I can actually open. Oh, that's not what I wanted. So there's your website. The links seem to work. Contact, bring the problem. We will get into it. So pretty simple, basic, and then I can go into here now. I can say, well, I don't like the color. Make it all blue, make it more red, whatever. Like you saw in the beginning, like I had very little information in there, and there's a website. It's that simple. Now, for the sake of time, I can't do everything, but me and my wife are working on building a house this summer, and so what we use AI for, a lot of that is we would take the architectural drawings, take just the front elevation of it, put it into Gemini. Gemini is good with pictures, and say, well, I need this to look like something. Like, what would make this look good? Put siding over here, put brick over here, put, this color of siding. I want vertical siding, I want horizontal, like, describe it in there. I want shingles in there, I want metal in there, whatever. AI generates you a picture, gives you a visual. Oh, that's what it could look like, you know? It's like, that totally got that wrong. I type it in there. It's like, well, I want to change this. It's been very helpful for us in that way. All right, let's see if I can do something with a different AI. Give me 1 second. I should have pulled this all up before I got started, but I was running late on time, which sometimes happens. So here's another AI. Some of you maybe use this. This one is Notion. And Notion is one of those companies that uses a model underneath the hood. And so, for example, if I click on, by the way, Notion isn't an AI by itself. It has AI, but Notion is much more than an AI. It's a platform for organizing your life, basically. Digital platform for organizing your life. They also brought an AI because that's the thing to have nowadays. So here in this little face, I can choose what model I want to use. And these three are from Anthropic. This one's Google Gemini, and then here's ChatGPT. I kind of like the Opus 4.7. It's the later model that came out a couple weeks ago. Most of the top AIs all brought out the model a couple weeks ago, in case you haven't noticed. And so I'm going to type in here. I'm going to copy and paste. I'm not going to type. So I'm going to put this Notion prompt in here. You don't need to see that part. That was just my headline for where my prompts were. I want a database of all the restaurants within 30 kilometers of Arborg. I need opening times, name and address of restaurant, short descriptive style, and their phone numbers, and what their average price per meal is based on Google reviews, plus what their rating is out of 5. Let me know if you have any questions. Place the database on this page. So I have this page open on Notion, which is an empty page at this point. And so I send, this one's, now it's crafting and it's preparing. Excuse me. And so let's see if it'll do any good job. This is, Notion AI is particularly, they've taken the Anthropic models and they've especially curated it for Notion. And so Notion was probably one of the first AIs to have agentic AI to actually do stuff for you. It can build databases for you. It can do all kinds of stuff for you. So again, you can see a little bit its thinking process. It'll research restaurants within 30 kilometers of Arborg and then gather the details. This will probably take another 3 or whatever minutes. You can see it's going through the restaurants right there. Now, one way where this is different than just a training model, agentic AI will actually go search the web. It's not just going to rely itself on its training data. So as you saw there, it's probably done by now, but it was searching the web for Chicken Chef and for these different restaurants. It was searching the web for that information. And so that's already, it's using the training model that it has to look at the steps, at the steps it has to do. And then when it's in this step, it will actually go and look at the internet, search the internet for information, and then based on that information, brings it back into the model, and then does further actions on it. Thinks it has a good list. It's looking for more details, hours, and prices. And so when you have the different models, like I have a subscription to Super Grok, which is the second highest level for Grok. I have a subscription for a lot of AIs because I test everything. They have different levels. They have different agents. You can have certain levels of AIs, you can have like 4 different agents that are all working on the same project for you. And so it becomes a lot more powerful that way. Because if you just have a free account for ChatGPT, for example, you might have one agent or you might not even have an agent. But when you have multiple agents, then you can have an agent that controls the other agents and just kind of, this agent researches this agent does that. When you remember the graph that I had where the different actions you do for a website, it will put the agents onto different parts of that to do the research, gather the information, and then have another agent that, it is like working with a group of people. They have their different jobs to do. And they bring together to the manager picks it up and goes with it. It's awfully close to people, to be honest with you. And but it's tools that do stuff for us. Like I said earlier, the reason why some of this is going to become very normal for a lot of us in this room is because It allows us to do things we never could before. Writing databases, yes, I could manually make a database. I mean, this stuff I can do. I've done this stuff before. But man, it's a lot easier to just get AI to write it while I go and continue working in whatever else I'm doing. Because this takes a few minutes, but I could do something else during this time. I had Arbrig, Manitoba, so then I think it's pretty much filtered. But it could, if there's no history other than that, if that's the first time you open AI and you write in their Arbrig, it will most likely take the IP address of your computer on the internet and see that, oh, you are in this area. It will probably say Selkirk or something, depends where your internet provider is, and it will look in that vicinity most likely. Oh, maybe we have one that isn't doing what I wanted it to. Oh, okay, so it created a database and put it in here. If I can find it. No, it's being messed up because I tested this earlier. Now it thinks I still have it somewhere and it's create a database. Let's see. Oh, here we go. So here's a database that it created. And it looks like it just kind of went to the one that I deleted earlier. Should have moved it from trash so it wasn't in existence at all. That's why the red banner up there. But anyways, so here's different ones, and I don't even know if all these exist. Maybe it just made them up. Landing Grill and Cafe. Somebody know if that's actually in the real place in Riverton? I'm not sure, but some of these obviously are. Integrity Foods, Arbrig Bakery, My Baba, Subway, and Arbrig. All these things. It has town, it has the website, you know, Katie's Brew Barn. Now, a disclaimer here, I don't know what's going to show up. But anyways, it's their website. Chicken Treff and Arbrig. It makes a database and has these different columns. Can scroll to the right, has the address, has the phone number. And here's the average price that I was looking for. And it puts the ratings on here. It looks like it's sorted by rating right now. Anyways, type 1 prompt, makes a whole database. That's what agentic AI can do. Your mind is the limit, basically. It can help you be creative, or it can make you less creative. Depends kind of how you use it, I guess. It's past 8:30. I think I will end there. Like I said earlier, this is part one of a two-part session or series on AI. If you listen to only this, I haven't talked much about the negatives of what it can do to you and all that good stuff, or bad stuff. We have to face AI. I don't see it going away unless God intervenes and has a Tower of Babel moment for the world. Because of the power that it gives to people, they're not putting it back. They're not going away with it. You can imagine the power that it gives to governments. You can imagine the power it gives to large companies. Yeah, there is things to be concerned about, but we'll leave that for the next session. I think we will end it right there. And yeah, I just want to make sure that whoever listens to this, that if you only listen to this one, you won't hear much negative. There is not much in here, and so that goes together with next session. Otherwise, you're lopsided with the information you get. You good with that?